Hey y'all, thanks for tuning in to Outdoor and Door Texan. Today I'll be showing y'all my recipe for wild pig carnitas. Feral hogs are a serious invasive species problem here in Texas, among many other parts of the country. Thankfully, beneath that tough hide and ugly mug, it's still pork. And you can make some really tasty solutions out of this whole pig invasion problem, one of them being carnitas. To get started, you'll need roughly 3 pounds of pork. This meat was taken from the hindquarter or ham of a medium sow I shot recently, but just about any pork will work just fine. Whether that's coming from the ham, front shoulders, tenderloins, back strap, neck roast, or any other bit. Just make sure whatever meat you're working with was handled correctly during processing and you'll be good to go. Cut the meat into 2-inch cubes and try to get as much silver skin and connective tissue off that you can. It doesn't have to be perfect, but the less the better. Once your meat is prepped, toss it all into a Dutch oven or any oven-safe medium to large pot. Wild pigs are much leaner than their farm-raised cousins, so I'm adding a couple dollops of bacon fat. You can use bacon grease, pork fat bought off a butcher, or even a couple tablespoons of butter. After the fat, add the juice of 1 to 2 limes. Pour in the juice and zest of 1 large navel orange, 4 cloves of garlic, either smashed or minced, and then add your dry spices. 2 bay leaves, 1 teaspoon of cumin, and 1 teaspoon of Mexican oregano. If you can't get your hands on Mexican oregano, using regular oregano in this instance will get you pretty close. Maybe recite some high school Spanish over the pot while you sprinkle it in just to give it a little kick. Also add about a teaspoon of fresh cracked pepper and about a tablespoon of kosher salt. Also, salt is such a personal preference. Make sure to taste the finished product at the end of this whole recipe and give it that final salt to taste tweak. Finally, I'm adding about a cup of beer, or just enough to get that meat covered 3/4 of the way by liquid. If you have it, fancy lagers or even an IPA would add a very good layer of flavor to things, but yellow beer like mine works just fine. Give everything a stir to ensure the spices are well mixed, then put the top on your pot and place it in your 300-degree oven for 2 hours. Make sure to keep an eye on it while it's braising in the oven. Check in after hour 1, give everything a quick stir, then let it ride covered up again for another hour. We just want to make sure that there isn't too severe of a liquid loss during this first braising period. After 2 hours braising, remove the top of your pot and increase the temperature of the oven up to 325 degrees. Now let it simmer uncovered for another hour. This will help reduce that braising liquid down to a more concentrated liquor that we'll use later in the recipe. After a total of 3 hours in the oven, check if your meat is fork tender. A fork should slide effortlessly through the meat. Or, if you're using tongs, the meat should easily give away under some slight hand pressure. If it is ready, remove your pot from the oven, separate the meat from your liquid, but make sure to save that liquor because it's going to be super useful later in the recipe. Take your meat and spread it out over a pan lined with tin foil or parchment paper, and using a fork and knife, give those chunks a quick chop. We want the texture somewhere between the big chunks we started out with and full-on pulled pork. Carnitas literally means tiny meats, so try and keep them in some form of chunks, but smaller ones that are easier to taco. Now take that all-important braising liquid we talked about and sprinkle a ladle's worth over the meat. It's important to make sure everything is laid flat, so the liquid evenly spreads over the meat. And once in the oven, the heat touches as much surface area as possible. After that, toss your pan into the oven on broil for about 5 to 10 minutes tops. Keep a close eye on the meat and pull it out once everything is browned and some of the edges have started to crisp up and char. You should now have some tender, moist, crispy, and lightly charred carnitas. Give everything a quick taste test and remember to add salt to taste as well as tweak it any other way you see fit. All that's left now is building a taco. And I'm just going to quickly walk through what I usually do for mine, but if I'm missing your favorite topping or you do something completely different, feel free to leave a comment below to help guide the viewers. I prefer a yellow corn tortilla as the base, then sprinkle a healthy spoonful of pico de gallo, which is diced onion, jalapeno, and tomato. Add a sprinkle of cheese while it's still steaming so it gets just a little melty. Toss on some homemade pickled carrots and pickled onions. Add a dash or 2 of your favorite hot sauce. Squeeze out a little bit of lime juice. And finally, top it off with a sprinkle of cilantro. Tasting these carnitas, you'd never imagine this was from a feral hog. This pork is tender, super wet, and has a great overall flavor from all that time braising in the pot. When you add all those other toppings on top of an already excellent bit of meat, you're left with a wonderful complex bite of sweet, savory, and salty that I guarantee will keep people coming back for more. That'll do it for this one, and thank you all so much for watching. If you have any questions or tips of your own, feel free to leave a comment below, as I always try to make myself available to my viewers. If you're new to the channel, please consider hitting that subscribe button for more great content to come. Alright y'all, take care.